And if you would please now join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We have an exciting program today, but today is a bittersweet one for the League. Today marks the 104th anniversary of the League of Women Voters of the United States, and we celebrate that. But we are also deeply saddened to announce that our dear Special President, Deborah Ann Turner, passed away on January 28th. So we mourn her passing and we will miss her dearly. As the 20th president of this 104-year-old voting rights organization, Dr. Turner was a devoted and fearless advocate for voting rights, women's rights, and racial equity. And to honor her life and contributions to the League and to celebrate and commemorate Black History Month, I'm pleased to welcome to the podium Dr. Ethel Wellington Trawick, who is with us today to lead us in the Black National Anthem, Lift Every Voice and Sing. Dr. Trawick is a retired educator, administrator, and music director of St. Mark's AME Church. Thank you.
Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring, ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of our new day begun, let us march on till victory is won. Stony the road we trod, bitter the chastening rod, felt in the days when hope unborn had died, yet with the steady beat have not our weary feet come to the place where which our fathers sighed. We have come over a way that with tears have been watered. We have come treading the path through the blood of the slaughtered. Out from the gloomy past, till now we stand at last, where the bright gleam of our bright star is cast. God of our weary years, God of our silent tears, thou who hast brought us thus far on the way, thou who hast by thy might led us into the light, keep us forever in the path we pray, lest our feet stray from the places, our God, where we met thee, lest our hearts, drunk with the wine of the world, we forget thee, shadowed beneath thy hand, may we forever stand, true to our God, true to our native land.
Thank you, Dr. Trowick. I always find that song so inspirational and touching. I'd now like to acknowledge our sponsors for the League and Hot Topics. And to start with our bronze sponsors, I'm happy to welcome again the Barrelsman. David Barrelsman is here. The Voting Voices team, Charlie Williams, Michelle Levy, Lori and Richard Wack. Thank you for your support. We also welcome Jennifer Anderson this morning. Jennifer and her husband Phil are our visionary sponsors for the year, and we can't thank them enough for their incredible contributions. Will all of our sponsors please stand to be recognized? Thank you. If you're interested in becoming a sponsor, we would love the opportunity. Please chat with me or contact me at vp@lwvoc.org. I'd also like to acknowledge someone else who's in the audience who's very special. Deirdre McNabb. Deirdre now hails from Colorado, but she has been a mover and doer in the history of the League. She was the president of the Orange County League and went on to become the president of the Florida League. And because of Deirdre, the League grew from a small organization to a mammoth organization that is what you see today in Orange County. We are, if not the largest, one of the largest leagues, local leagues in the country, thanks to people like Deirdre and all of you who have been inspired by the leadership of people like Deirdre. Deirdre, thank you for being a superhero leaguer, and thank you for being here. We will now take time to acknowledge anyone in the room who is an elected official or anyone who is running for office and has declared. So if you are an elected official or have declared and are planning on running for office, please step over to the mic to my left. You can line up there, don't be shy. And we'd like you to briefly introduce yourselves by giving your name, title, and office. Please, we ask that you not give speeches. And for the audience, if you would kindly wait until everyone has introduced themselves before you give the applause. I know you can't wait to give. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Dr. Kelly Martinez-Semrat. I'm running for Orange County District 5 Commissioner. Thank you.
No applause yet.
Good morning. Happy Valentine's Day. Happy birthday to the league, and happy to be here for Black History Month. My name is Wes Hodge, and I'm running for Orange County Supervisor of Elections.
Good morning. I'm Todd Weaver. I'm not running for anything, but I'm a Winter Park City Commissioner, and happy Valentine's Day to all of you.
Hi, I'm Joy Goff-Marcel, and I'm running for Orange County Commission, District 5. Thank you.
Hello, I am Allison Cresty, Circuit Judge serving Orange and Osceola counties.
Hi, my name is Stephanie Vanos, and I'm running for Orange County School Board District 6.
Good morning. I'm Karen Casardental, and I'm on the school board, District 6, and I am a candidate for the Orange County Supervisor of Elections. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Scott Randolph. I'm your Orange County Tax Collector.
What always strikes me about these introductions is how many of the people who get up to introduce themselves are and have been members of the league. The place to be. Following our Hot Topics program, we have added for some time now Hot Topics Overtime. So I invite all of you to join us next door across the breezeway at the Winter Park Public Library. We will be meeting on the first floor in the Edith Bush Auditorium. It will be from 1:15 to 2, a short 45 minutes. It's always information-packed and fun, so do join us. Valada Flewellyn, one of our esteemed panelists, will be leading the discussion today. So our topic today is the fight for African American history and culture. And it is my pleasure to introduce the moderator of today's program, Jasmine Burney Clark. Jasmine is the founder and director of the Equal Ground Education Fund and Action Fund. Equal Ground is a Black-led, community-centered civic engagement organization that focuses on voting rights, education, and voter turnout. And Jasmine, who is also a member of the League, is also a member of the Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority, and we welcome her to the podium. Jasmine, if you would join me. Thank you.
All right. Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon. It is so great to be here with each of you all today. Before we get started with the program, I just want to say thank you to the Orange County League for inviting me to moderate this conversation today. I do greatly appreciate it. I'd also like to acknowledge my parents who are in the audience, my mentee, and some colleagues are also here, and my husband who is late, but he will be here shortly as well. Let's go ahead and get started. I do have some acknowledgments of some organizations who are also here that are joining us today. So members from ASALA, would you mind just waving for me, please, and acknowledging? Perfect. Let's give them a hand. We also have members from the Orange County NAACP chapter. Let's give them a hand as well. Orange County branch of the Florida Voters League. All right. Orlando chapter of CHUMS. Okay. And the Alliance for Truth and Justice, also here today. Perfect. Next, I'd like to say happy Valentine's Day to all the lovers, want to be loved, and loved in the room. And then also, happy Black History Month. We know that our culture obviously spans far beyond just the month. And we also know that the attacks go far beyond just a month. They are 365 days a year, and we want to make sure that we celebrate not only just this month, but certainly beyond today's point. So I want to take a quick moment to discuss this year's national theme, African Americans and the Arts. According to the Association for Study of African American Life and History, ASALH, African American art is infused in African and Caribbean and in Black American lived experiences. And in the fields of visual and performing arts, literature, fashion, folklore, language, film, music, culture, architecture, culinary, and other forms of cultural expansion and expression, the African American influence has been paramount. African American artists have used art to preserve history and community, as well as create memories and empowerment over the years. And artistic and cultural movements such as the New Negro, Black arts, Black Renaissance, hip hop, and Afrofuturism have been led by people of American descent and set the standard for people and popular trends around the world. Today, however, our discussion will further examine African American history and culture overall. So I want to draw your attentions to the screen. Senator Geraldine Thompson was elected in 2018. Thus, such became the first female Democrat and person of color to serve in the Florida House in District 44. Senator Thompson now represents Senate District 15 in West Orange County. She is a member also of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. I actually worked on her very first race as senator for this great community. And though she could not be here with us today in person, we will hear her update from the legislative session, especially as it pertains to the erasure of African American history.
Hello, this is Senator Geraldine Thompson, and I am greeting you from Tallahassee, where we're dealing with some very troubling legislation. One bill that has been introduced is known as the Kamala Harris Truth in Slavery Teaching Act. And that bill would focus on any political party that at any point in history supported slavery. And rather than dealing with the Middle Passage and dealing with the enslavement experience and dealing with abolition, the slant is to focus on a political party that at some point had a pro-slavery tenet in its goals. So it's the desire to shift the discussion away from what the discussion ought to be. We recently saw that the Board of Governors removed sociology from the list of core courses for graduation from college. And if you don't deal with sociology, you don't have to focus on cause and consequence. So when we talk about mass incarceration, we talk about poverty, we talk about low achievement scores, high school graduation, all of that would be the focus of sociology. So it's this desire to shift the conversation away from what the conversation ought to be. And if you don't deal with sociology, you don't have to confront systems that excluded African Americans from education in the state of Florida. I have emphasized that the University of Florida, which was founded in 1858, operated for a century, 100 years, before the very first African American, George Stark, was admitted in 1958. So was that accidental, or was there a system in place that prevented the enrollment of African Americans in Florida's flagship university? Did African Americans pay taxes that helped to support higher education in the state of Florida? And the answer is yes. And so we're also now looking at legislation that would prohibit the removal of Confederate monuments. And we know that they are scattered all over the South, part of the lost cause. And so now, if this legislation were to pass, it would prohibit moving these statues. I serve on a 9-member task force to make recommendations to the state of Florida regarding the location, the design, the construction, the self-sufficiency of an African American history museum that would be, it would be built and constructed by the state of Florida. And one of the task force members has suggested that it would be important to focus on African Americans who fought for the Confederacy. So you have individuals who are part of what should be the solution, who are recommending things that are counter to really focusing on truth in African American history. And then, of course, the legislation that was passed and signed into law by the governor that prohibits discussing race in classrooms in a manner that makes students feel uncomfortable. And unfortunately, the truth is not always comfortable. We know that we have teaching standards that were adopted that suggest that African Americans benefited from enslavement because they developed skills that could be used for their own personal benefit. And many of the skills that are referred to are skills that came from Africa: mathematics and iron working, working with textiles, agriculture, music, art. Those were skills that were brought from Africa. But the slant, again, is to shift the discussion to a place where it should not be. We know that there was a system put in place during the enslavement experience that was designed to make sure that even when slavery ended, when it was abolished, that there would be a continual supply of these humans who were used as machines. And so you had, for example, a system that would result in a childbearing woman having an infant every 2 years. And an example of that is Sally Hemings, who was the property of Thomas Jefferson. And she had many children who were fathered by Thomas Jefferson. And the law at that time said that the status of the children in terms of being free or enslaved depended on the status of the mother. So all of Sally Hemings' children were the slaves of Thomas Jefferson. We also know that now you cannot use state funding to support any initiative directed toward diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so ways to retain students so that there are affinity groups, there are activities of interest to them are now prohibited. And I think that that has resulted in a brain drain. We have many students now who elect to go to college outside of the state of Florida. And we're having difficulty recruiting faculty because people in other states look at the fact that tenure at our state universities can be reviewed at any time rather than every 5 years, that a professor's lecture can be recorded without the professor's consent or even knowledge, which if you're going to do that, what are you doing it for? Is it to use against the professor? So we're having difficulty recruiting faculty because they look at what's going on in Florida and question, why in the world would I want to go to that state? I am a product of the segregated system of schools here in the state of Florida. I went from elementary school to graduating from high school where everybody in the school looked just like me. And we received books that had been used years before in the white schools. And so sometimes by the time we got them, pages were torn out or there were scribbles in the book. So this is not something that I am theorizing about. This is something that I have lived. So there is an attempt to sugarcoat, to whitewash African American history and to shift the discussion away from where the discussion needs to be. And I've collected petitions that I am providing to the Department of Education saying, let's go back to the drawing board with regard to the teaching standards and make sure that there is an accurate depiction of the African American experience here in the state of Florida.
Senator Thompson always does a great job, I think, of providing the most accurate summary of what has and is currently happening in our state. I do want to acknowledge her husband, Judge Emerson Thompson, who is in the audience with us today as well. Thank you for being here. All right, so as our panelists are introduced, please prepare to take your seats at the podium. We are going to get started with Valada Flewellyn. She is an author, poet, historian, and storyteller. She is the author of 7 books. Valada is a founding member of the Alliance for Truth and Justice, an affiliate of the Equal Justice Institute. She is a lifetime member of the Association for the Study of African American Life and History, also known as ASALH. And Valada is also a member of Bridging the Color Divide, as well as an honorary member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, and a member of the League. Let's welcome Valada. Next, we have Dr. LaVon Bracy. She has been a champion for the rights of others since she was a child. She's the girl who integrated the school system in Alachua County, Florida, becoming the first African American to graduate from Gainesville High School in 1965. Dr. Bracy is known in Central Florida for her vigorous encouragement to increase voter registration and for her single-handedly registering more than 1,200 people. She was married to minister and university dean, the late Reverend Dr. Randolph Bracy, Jr. She is also the co-founder of New Covenant Baptist Church of Orlando. She currently serves as the Director of Democracy for Faith in Florida and is a member of the League of Women Voters as well. She is the author of 7 books, and the most recent one is A Brave Little Cookie. Let's give her a hand. And finally, we have LeRoy Pernell, a professor and former dean of the Florida A&M University College of Law. He is credited with leading the law school to full accreditation from the American Bar Association in 2009 and reaccreditation in 2014. He is also Professor Emeritus and former Dean of the Northern Illinois University College of Law. He is also an author and lecturer on race and law, as well as being one of the named plaintiffs in the lawsuit against Florida's Stop Woke Act. Let's give him a hand. All right, so let's jump right in. I want to go ahead and just let you all level set really quick with the first question for me. And explain for the audience, and I want to make sure you also know where your timekeeper is seated as well, so that you know how much time you have as you're speaking today. How has Black history, or the lack thereof, in your education shaped your careers and contributions? Dr. Valada, you want to start us off? Or Ms. Valada, you want to start us off today?
Yes, I would love to.
You have your mic right in front of you.
Yes, I would. I am a child who was raised during the Civil Rights era. The lack of Black history in the schools stirred my activism. When I began to read about African Americans who had accomplished much, I got angry. I was 13 years old, and I followed the lead of the adults in my sphere. I wanted to do something about it. Adults were protesting and they were shouting out, and I saw that. And I thought, well, don't just get angry, do something about it. And so I had my parents' attorney draw up a petition that Negro history should be taught in the Cleveland public schools. And as a result of that campaign, I met a gentleman by the name of Ichabod Flewellyn. And his last name, different from mine, is spelled Flewellyn, Flewellyn. My last name is YN. Ichabod Flewellyn is the father of the African American Museum. I met him at age 13, and he joined in the campaign that I had begun. And for 3 years, I worked in his museum as a student and hearing the stories that he would tell. And then fast forward, I'm 19 years old, and I'm at my wedding, and he's there. And I say, Mr. Flewellyn, what are you doing here? And he says, you married my nephew. So I also married Black history at that time, too. Because from that day forward, till death do me and African American history pass. I began to write poetry and sort of express my feelings through my poetic voice. And in doing so, I came to Orange County in 1987 when Eatonville was celebrating 100 years. And I looked at the sign and I thought, that's why I'm here, because Ichabod had told me about this town where freedom was built. And I knew that some exciting things would happen in this area because it was marked as the place where freedom was built. So I was very excited about being here, being introduced more intimately to Zora Neale Hurston and her stories. And then a principal from the schools heard me reading poetry, and he says to me, you're a storyteller. And I thought, did I lie about something? Is there something I said that was a lie? And he says, no, you're a storyteller, and you're coming to my school. And so that began what was a 30-year career as a storyteller, using my poetry to educate young people about the African American experience, writing poems like I Am Somebody, The Evolution of the African Americans, and other ways of getting not only Black children, but all children to understand that the African American story, or the African story, is an American story, and that our history is something that we all have in common. We cannot parse the truth. The truth is the light. And so as we tell our story, as we share our story, we become closer. Some of you may have, I saw some of you coming from the library, you may have seen the exhibit that I did for ASALA, the Association for the Study of African American Life and History.
Yes, thank you. As a reminder, our timekeeper is directly in front of us, but we are going to create time. It's okay. We're going to create plenty of time for you to get all of those anecdotes and stories in, so don't worry. Dr. Bracy, you want to take it away for us?
Yes, I'm delighted to be here today. I guess I grew up, I started in St. Augustine, and I did not realize the impact of history until the Ku Klux Klan came to our house and put a cross in front of it and burned it. And my dad would always tell us history and tell us about his work as president of the NAACP in the 50s and 60s in St. Augustine. It was tough times. It was horrible for us. And my mother was a school teacher, and she lost 2 jobs because of my father's activities trying to be an advocate in the oldest city in the United States. So Father always made sure that we knew history. And in fact, during the summer, when everybody took real nice vacations, my father would give us an assignment of reading 5 books. And we would have to do book reports. And they were all books that he had read. And so when we got back to school, what we had to talk about are the 5 books that we had to read in the book reports. And if, in fact, we didn't write it correctly, he would give us a grade and tell us go back and do it again. So we got a great foundation from our parents in terms of history. And my dad always would tell us that it is important that you do service, that you take what you have learned and help others. So history, Black history in our family was just a part of the family every day. When we sat down to eat dinner, we could expect from my dad and my mother to learn some Black history. Didn't get much of it in school. However, when I started school where it was one room and 6 grades and one teacher. And that teacher would always give us some kind of information on Black history. Thank you.
Professor Pernell?
Thank you. History and the history of us as a people has always been the fuel that has kept me going. I see history as that which allows for advocacy. I'm also a child of the 60s and 50s and 60s. Okay, well, we'll leave that alone. We could add another decade, but I won't do that right now. Not important for this discussion. But I can tell you this: that it's the drive, it's the impact of history that allows a person, allowed me, to determine not only who I was, but who I could be. And I'll share just one very brief antidote, well, maybe 2 very brief antidotes. One is what sparked me to be able to do anything at all, to speak out in terms of outrage, to speak out in terms of justice, comes from history and a specific moment in time. And many of you in this room remember this, Jet Magazine. Now, some of you may not understand what Jet Magazine is, and I'm not talking about the centerfold. That's another issue. But there was a moment, and many in this room remember that moment, when Jet Magazine published the photograph of Emmett Till's funeral, and his mother saying, "Look what they've done to my boy." That changed my life, okay? That changed my life. That told me that there was something to fight for. I remember I spent a lot of time with my grandmother telling her, well, I want to go be a freedom rider. She said, boy, sit down over there. But when it came to reinforcing the things that I wanted to do, and I'm the first generation, not only the first generation of college, first generation to finish high school in my family, only because I understood the place that history had for us. When people doubted what I could accomplish, and at one point I tell the story often of people being telling me that I had to take my standardized test over again because a child like you could not have a perfect score, and I had a perfect score. And so on my record, you'll see 2 scores. You will see 2 scores. I did not let that redefine me because I knew my history. I knew what I could be. And so with the various stages along the way, I think I've been able to hopefully turn that history into a present and a here and now. Thank you.
Thank you all for sharing each of your contributions, or what has contributed to your educational history. So I want to jump into our next question, and I also want to say that I think for myself, starting Equal Ground 1 or 3 months after the first legislative session that Ron DeSantis was elected has been a turning point for me. So not only are we looking at and listening to history from our past, but we're also directly living in that history and injustice right now. I want to name for you all that Governor DeSantis signed into law the Stop Woke Act, which restricts lessons and training on race and diversity in schools and in the workplace. He created a law that prohibits the teaching of critical race theory to K through 12 classrooms, which DeSantis said would end corporate and educational indoctrination in Florida. Florida also has adopted new social studies and history standards that have been criticized as watering down African American history. And then a Florida law that allows parents to question whether books of sexual content should be available to K through 12 students, resulting in hundreds of books being pulled for review, including many by African American authors. Professor Pernell, the state recently barred public universities from using state and federal funds, as we heard from Senator Thompson, for DEI programs, and the State Department of Education rejected an advanced placement high school elective course on African American history, saying it significantly lacked educational value. My question to you is, what is going on at the collegiate level with DEI programs?
Well, I smile only because I look around the room and I'm trying to see if my lawyers are here. I don't see them, so I don't see anybody from the Legal Defense Fund or from the ACLU who are involved. And I've been told that you know the road, the things you can talk about, the things you can't talk about. We are at a very serious time in our history where, because of these actions, we're trying to close doors as opposed to open them. And the impact that has, we have students, at least in my experience, we have students that are clamoring for this information. This isn't, students were mad and they didn't want to learn it. No, the students want to learn it. Why do they want to learn it? Because those who are committed to trying to make a change need to know about the past in order to change the future. And so the message you send by prohibiting discussion of history, by attacking DEI, is somehow those things are not important. And one comment I made in an editorial not too long ago, one of the crazy things about that is that even if you don't like civil rights, even if you don't like justice for all people, you do like your kids to graduate from an accredited school, don't you? And when you attack diversity and DEI, you're attacking the accreditation standards of virtually every organization in this country. So the point that was made that Senator Thompson made earlier, people are fleeing this state. People are fleeing the state because the quality of education has been diminished because of these attacks. Not only is this an attack in Florida, it's an attack in the nation. And one of the things that to pull out one of those old phrases from the 60s, when they used to say that the whole world is watching. The whole world is watching what's happening here. And the whole world is shaking its head. Because guess what? The whole world is, as what did Langston Hughes say, is full of other folks like me who are black, yellow, beige, and brown. And so you can't stop progress by simply prohibiting it. But when their attempts are made, you must fight it, you must stand up, and you must be strong. And that's what we're trying to do.
Thank you. Valada, how have the state's recent laws about removing books from K through 12 schools and libraries and the Stop Woke Act affected you personally? Your mic. Your mic.
As an author, I feel and understand the hard work that goes into writing, and to imagine that the books you write are not going to be read. I just came back from Washington, D.C. My cousin is the new president of Howard University. So I was there at a conference for counties for guaranteed income, and the speakers were Dr. Michael Steele and Nicole Hannah-Jones. So it's very interesting that I was going from hearing the author of the book that is most talked about and probably was #1 on the banned list, the 1619 Project, to this event. So I thought it was a story I should tell you. I was saying the event the event. The exhibit across the hall is called I Love to Tell the Story. And because I don't look at the timekeeper, and I have to limit the time I talk, I'm going to resort to my poetry. So I'm going to read to you the poem that is the theme of the exhibit that is across the way. I love to tell the story, will be my theme in glory, to tell the age-old story of a people I do love. Once told by Freedom's Journal, told in the old North Star, the story of a people and just how great they are. I love to tell the story, and I must get past the rage and simply tell the story of this new, evolving age. The current voice, or so they say, of all our friends along the way. The noises of the native son, the plea for justice, the long, hard run. We beat the story drum. We talk the talk of ages. We bring folk the news, broadcast, and allow others to take a walk in our shoes. The job is not always being nice. We tell the story. We're breaking ice. We are often cautious about expressing our feelings, always aware of the eye in the ceiling. Oh, we make friends along the way, but we talk that talk. There are things we must say. I love to tell the story. Will be my theme in glory, to tell the age-old story of a people I do love. I have time? Stop. Thank you very much.
Thank you for sharing that beautiful work of art, and I think that's a great transition to Dr. Bracy, whose personal story has been written in a book that students cannot read or access right now. Can you tell us a little bit about that feeling that you have inside?
It was 8 years ago when I came to the League and I shared my story. And I told the League about me living in Gainesville, Florida, and integrating the public schools of Gainesville. I told them about how I was beaten, how I was called the N-word. Every time that I would go to my seat, there would be tacks in it. Under my seat would be dead roaches and snakes. And my classmates did everything that they possibly could to make sure that I didn't graduate. But in spite of what they did, I graduated. When I told that story to the League, about 5 or 6 ladies came to me and said, "Why don't you write a children's book?" I says, "I've never told my story to children." 3 weeks later, I went to an elementary school to tell my story. And the students at the elementary school said, "Miss Bracy, why don't you write a children's book so that children will have this story?" So I was obedient, and I wrote the book, A Brave Little Cookie. And I told my story about what happened to me when I was a senior in high school. My book came out in 2019. And when that book came out, I was inundated at elementary and high schools going to share my story. In fact, I had so many engagements, I just had to turn some of them down. Well, this year, I have not had one engagement to go to not one school. I had a teacher to call me, and the teacher said, "Miss Bracy, I'm just afraid that I'll lose my job if you come to our school and tell your story." She said, "Is it possible that you could write out a curriculum of what you would say. And if you would do that, I would give it to the curriculum department. Then they will give it to the attorney, and they would see if this was acceptable for you to come and you to share this information. She said, but I have to tell you, they will probably have someone in the room that if you deviate from what you have given us, that I would really get in trouble. And I says, I would not put that kind of pressure on you. My response is that I just would not come. So this is the first year that I did not get any invitations, not because the teachers didn't want me to come, but they were afraid of the consequences that they would suffer as a result of me coming.
Wow. So, Dr. Bracy, I have a follow-up. I was actually saving it for a little bit later in our conversation, but I think right now is the perfect time. Many of you may or may not have recently heard about permission slips in the Miami-Dade public school system. And if you haven't heard about permission slips, which are typically used to give parents permission to take kids off property, to attend extracurricular events, theme parks, different sorts of things that typically happen off property. But a father in Miami-Dade posted to Twitter this week a permission slip from the Miami-Dade school system where his child is located at for the school to be granted, or for him to grant the school permission to read a book out loud that has been authored by an African American. That is the permission slip that students are being sent home with and are being asked to have parents fill out in order for their kids to hear a book authored by an African American and a number of other individuals and parameters. The school system has gone far, but I think our government has gone even further in that scope. I'm curious to know what your thoughts are around that. I mean, given all that you've already experienced this year, are there any ways that we can combat that issue or work around it?
Listen, I don't think it's going to get any better. It's going to get worse. And I really think the only remedy for that is that we need to vote. We need to hold those accountable for what mess they have really made for the state of Florida. And what we need to do is we need to expand our reach. We need to find our neighbors, our friends, our cousins, and everybody. And we're talking about issues. We're not talking about party. We are saying with these issues, it is affecting the entire state. And if we don't do something, and if we don't scream loud enough, and if we don't go to the ballot and do something with these bad actors, it is going to get worse and not better.
Thank you. Professor Pernell?
Let me, I want to add to what Dr. Bracy has said about the urgency of this and point out that it's very important for us to understand we aren't just talking about a state issue or a regional issue. We're talking about a national issue. What the legislation, the atmosphere and the repressive legislation that we are experiencing here, we're part of, and it almost sounds like a tinfoil hat wearing paranoid for me to say this, but it's part of a national plan and scheme. In fact, you can find the plan written down. I mean, they're bold enough to actually write the plan down. If you, okay, I better not call out any names. I better not. Otherwise, I'd mention the Manhattan Institute, but I won't. But if you look at what they say, is that it is our desire to accomplish nationally what Florida is trying to do in Florida. Now, one additional point that I think is very important to mention, and I talk about this in an article I have coming out soon, Rutgers. Excuse the commercial. But if you go back, it said this is a national problem. You go back and look at the 20 to 30 states that have enacted legislation such as what you have in Florida, and chart those next to the states that have suppressed voting, they match up. All right? That's not accidental. That's not accidental. It isn't simply suppressing history because it was an inconvenience. Suppressing history suppresses voting. And suppressing voting gets its support from the rationale for suppressing history. So I think that it is, the multi-level attack and defenses that we need to make have to be on a national basis. We should be concerned about Florida. We should be concerned what's happening in Tennessee. We should be concerned what's happening in Texas. And look, before we make this a Southern thing, you better be concerned about what's happening in New York and Pennsylvania and all across the country. Malcolm X once said, if you're south of the Canadian border, you're south. So I think that we have to on all fronts, whether it's legal, whether it's political, whether it's teaching, stand up for what you know is right. And you can't let these folks keep winning this. You just can't do it.
Not only that, Professor Pernell, but we also have to be clear about the time frame it takes to get this done. None of these attacks happened overnight. They were well thought out years and years in advance and unfolded over time. We also have to be prepared to know that this isn't going to be an instant reversal, that it is going to likely happen beyond our generation, and we need to be prepared for that as well. So I saw Valada grab the mic, so I know she has something to contribute to this conversation, but I also want to ask a question as well. You're very familiar, obviously, with the national theme as it relates to Black history this month in the arts. Can you share with us a little bit about how cuts to the arts and culture programs have been affected in our African American community?
I hope you don't mind that I'm going to do you like the news does reporters, and you ask one question and I do what I want to do. Because I promised my dear friend Charlie Williams that the first chance I get, I'll share this story. I'm going to talk real fast and I'm going to look at you while I tell this story. Once I was doing a poetry reading in a friend's house. It was a birthday party for her husband. And after the poetry reading, one of the guests looked at me after hearing my poetry, I Am Somebody, Evolution of the African American, and said, Valada, you talk about your people. Who are your people? And then I realized for the first time why I believe it was God made me write my shortest poem, and I took poetic license because this poem is only 3 words. But it was the answer to his question. And so I'm going to show you and tell you at the same time that those 3 words are, and the question was, who are your people? My people love. It's as simple as that. And it's the thing that brings us all together, and I know it's trite, but it's true. And however you define love, I define love as God. God is love. But however you define love, you are the chosen people. The fact that you are here. And so I think in terms of the theme of Asala, that the art that we should all practice is the art of conversation. We need to talk to one another. We need to discuss our ideas. We need to be the rebellious people that we are. Senator Thompson talked about the fact that humans were used as machines. Well, we are all in danger of being replaced by machines. So if ever in history we had something in common, it is now. So the time for us to talk and the time for me to shut up is now.
All right, I have a question for each of you all. And I want you all to think about what Black history has taught us, What are the challenges? And what are the solutions for the present future? So what has it taught us? What are the challenges? And what are the solutions for the present future? And anyone can start there.
Black history has taught me that we are strong people. And as I have visited Africa many times, I know that I come from kings and queens who were very strong. And I know the importance of Black history. I know the challenges that we have before us. I just think that we need to get busy and have book giveaways for all of those banned books, so that our kids will understand the history and have a copy of what they don't want us to know about who we are.
Thank you.
Again, I'm going to use poetry to make it short and less than 1 minute poem. My skin on the rope. We all have skin on the rope, whether a neck on the rope or a hand on the rope. We all have skin on the rope. The pain of that connection grips us, entangles us, compels us to examine our history, then construct tomorrow to manifest the wounds that need more than a Band-Aid, wounds that need more than a cursory examination. We must dissect the fibers of our history, inspect our suspect moral character, which allows sin to fester as we turn our heads away from the atrocities that grab our children, drowning them in the muck of our making, leaving them unprepared, unprotected, and infected generation after generation from our refusal to acknowledge how we have failed our children. We all have skin on the rope.
I want to just add, with the attack that we've seen, again, in the state and across the country on critical race theory, for example. Now, I don't have time to go into, certainly in the after sessions, we can go into greater detail about what that attack involves and the demonization of people who teach or try to communicate in the language of talking about critical race theory. But one of the challenges for us in understanding today and putting an action plan together is to understand the battle isn't just against individualized racism, right? It's not the battle of someone got up and called you the N-word or did this or did that to you. Yes, even the folks who support this legislation will say, okay, oh yeah, that's wrong. That shouldn't have happened. But the real battle for us is about systemic racism, about racism, as one person put it, sort of racism without racist. People say, oh yeah, no, we're not a racist. We're not a racist. But by the way, you have to live where you live. You have to not learn what you're not learning. You have to go to prison because we sent you there, but it's not because we're racist. So we have to understand that the impact of systemic racism is going to be the race battle of the 21st century.
Wow, thank you. All right, we are nearing the end of our program, so I am going to ask if anyone has any questions, join us at this mic over here to the end, and while you are gathering yourself to head over here to ask your question, I'm going to ask each of our panelists in a very quick 1-minute rapid fire wrap up to just give us, last few words around what a call to action is that you'd leave our audience with today. 1 minute. Let's start with you, Professor Valada. Mike.
Yes. My wrap-up is we must talk to one another. We must share our ideas. My husband told me that you don't have an opinion until you've heard the opposite opinion, that you don't truly have an opinion. And I think that we need to not be afraid to talk about race. We all have a race story. You know, when was the first time you met an African American? You know, we have stories to share. Who are the racists in your family? And all families have them. You know, I was the racist in mine. So we have to acknowledge that we need each other. We need help. And we are the answer to our problems. So I would just encourage you to begin those conversations first with the people close to you, your family first, your family, your friends. You know, we suffer from silence.
Thank you. Dr. Bracy?
I have two small grandchildren, two beautiful girls, 10 and 12. And I want to make sure that I've done everything humanly possible to make this world a better place for them to live. And whatever it takes for me to do that, because when my last day is here on this earth, I want to know that I did not give up, but I worked as hard as I could to make this place the place it ought to be for all Americans, so that we all can be treated and believe that the state of Florida is a beautiful state and one that everybody should enjoy. So how do you do that? You do that, I'm gonna repeat it and then repeat it. We vote. We vote and we vote. And we vote.
Professor Pernell?
All right, very, very quickly, and Dr. Bracy just took something I was going to say, but that's fine. But I'm going to put it in slightly different words, and unfortunately, I don't have the skill for the brilliant poetry that we've heard, but I'm going to fall back on an old song that I learned, some of you know, that I think in terms of our commitment and our fight against racism, and that song says, I shall not be moved like a tree planted by the water. I shall not be moved. And I would hope that everyone understands and adopts the mantra for themselves, that I shall not be moved. Because I tell you, the people who are trying to do this stuff, they're waiting for you to give up. They're waiting to say, we last long enough, you're just going to give up, you're going to despair, and you're going to quit. But in the end, I would hope all of us would be willing to stand up and say, like a tree planted by the water, I shall not be moved.
Perfect. Thank you all so much today. So I know that we are in awe of what we've heard today, but I can't imagine we are without questions for our wonderful panelists. So I'm going to see if anyone is headed to the mic. We've got 2 minutes to take questions. I see one person coming over, so we'll let them come. And please ensure that it is only a question and not a short story.
I might need a little bit of getting to the question to understand it. My name is Tara. I'm a member of the League. I also work for the city, and we are working on third spaces and how to work Black history into them with our community centers and the children in them. And so my question is to all of you, I am looking for other third spaces where any of us in this room can work on things, can work on the ideas, can work on having those conversations.
Can one of you all provide an answer for us?
I would think the place we're sitting in is a good third place, the library. Is that you're looking for physical space? Is that what you're asking?
Yes, where we would gather in groups.
Yeah.
Years ago, there were lodges. There were these places that people would come and gather, and we don't have them so much anymore outside of maybe churches. So I think I'm looking for other ideas and spaces where we can interact. I think when we talk amongst ourselves, maybe we're all talking on the same side of an issue.
Yeah.
and maybe looking for those other spaces to have conversation.
Yeah, I think we should also step out of our comfortable places. Like we all go to different churches. I think we should switch sometimes. I really do. I think we stay in our cubicles too much. And we need to come out and visit and exchange. The Methodists go to the Baptists, the Catholic go to the Muslim. You know, we're too, we're in caste. We're too caste.
Okay.
So that's it.
Okay. Anyone else? I'll open it up for anyone else. Okay. Perfect. Next question.
Thank you for all of your remarks today. I appreciate it. I know that Senator Thompson is not here with us live, and I was going to ask her this question, but I know that on your table there's a QR code about the African American History Museum, and I wanted to let you know that Orange County Public Schools, in conjunction with the town of Eatonville, we're applying for the museum to be located at the Hungerford property. So any support you all could give to the survey that you can go to and kind of talk about why Eatonville would be the best place, we would appreciate that greatly. Thank you.
Perfect. And the deadline for that survey is February 29th, just so you know. The deadline is February 29th. Next question, and this will be our final question. Oh.
Yes. Thank you so much. I'm Dr. Kelly Semrad. Thank you. I want to say thank you so much for all that you do. I'm a UCF professor, and I am, in the beginning we heard from Senator Thompson where she was referencing that we no longer have sociology classes. This is true at UCF. It's been removed from our general education requirements. And we don't have diversity, equity, and inclusion funding any longer. And I want to tell you, I'm super concerned for first-time students in college who are coming from vulnerable populations, particularly Black populations. They need extra support. I'm ready to fight to get them what they need. I need to know how. And if you could give us some recommendations, guidance, how we can help, you know, just to the audience, we're fighters. We'll do it. Thank you.
Thank you. Who would like to take the lead here? Professor? Mike?
I'll just make one comment about how one gathers strength for these fights, and that is the importance of recognizing intersectionality here. That this isn't just the fight of African American people and their history. We can take a look at this legislation and you can see that, but it's the fight for the rights of women. It's the fight for the LGBTQ community. It's a fight for any number of other groups that are marginalized. And I think that one of the strengths that we can call upon is the natural alliance in challenging what's going on. And you know, the simplest solutions Dr. Bracy has mentioned several times, and I'm going to repeat it before she gets a chance to repeat it again. Vote, okay? Organize and get people out to vote. You hear so many people right now talking about they're just not going to vote because they don't like who the candidates are going to be. Well, that's not the issue. You know that? That's not the issue. What we're talking about here, these are the issues, and these are what people need to turn out and vote about.
I'd just like to say that I think the last election, the turnout on UCF campus was less than 20%. And so when you talk about having 50,000 students, and if you could really motivate them and encourage them and let them know the power that's in their hand, we can see a difference. We can really see a difference if we could and get those students to understand that they can change things in Orlando.
Yeah. And Valada, you've got 2 seconds, and you're gonna move us.
Bullets at your back, ballots in your sight. Certain you won't rest comfortably tonight. You push on. Fixed in the footprints of generations gone, you push on. Not fearing the rope nor hanging chads, not fearing the tricks in the enemy's bag. you push on. You vote today for a better tomorrow. You push on.
Thank you. Thank you so much to our panelists for today. I am now going to hand it over to our president, Ms. Tiffany Hughes, to close us out.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Can we get a round of applause for our moderator and our panelists this afternoon? And I just want to make sure that we acknowledge them by name. Thank you to our moderator, Jasmine Bernie Clark, and to our panelists, Valada Flewellyn and Dr. LaVon Bracy and Dr. LeRoy Pernell, and our guests via video, Senator Thompson. We all know that it is imperative that we fight back against the attempts to erase Black history. But like Eatonville, I hope that the League is a place where freedom is not built but stretched. Freedom of thought is stretched. Freedom of culture is stretched. Freedom of unity throughout Orange County is stretched. So while we have quite a ways to go, I am so grateful that our panelists today told their story, because it will certainly be our collective theme in glory. So thank them for that. We wouldn't be the League if we didn't have some calls to action, but I would say that Dr. Bracy said it the best. Vote. Hold our elected officials accountable to whatever it is that your needs and your values are as Floridians, for Floridians today and for our future Floridians. If you have not yet, there is so much Black history, Florida history, American history to be experienced right here in our backyard. So I encourage you to visit the Wells-Build Museum of African American History and Culture right here in downtown Orlando, or visit the Harriet T. and Henrietta V. Moore Memorial Park and Museum in Mims, Florida. Just a few, I think years ago, we had a few League of Women Voter members visit the museum. I was there. It was a phenomenal experience. So go visit and see a little Florida history for yourself. Election season is here. Presidential preference primary and municipal elections are on March 19th. The deadline to register is next Tuesday, February 20th. So while I hope that everyone in this room is registered, take someone to register, get them online, take them to the Supervisor of Elections office. Dr. Bracy said that only 20% of our students on UCF campus actually went out to the polls and voted. Go to UCF, encourage those students to vote. We have League UCF, and we know that we are encouraging our students in that way, but we want to get out on campus, tell our nieces, our uncles, our grandchildren that they need to get out and vote, and tell their friends as well. Many important municipal candidates' issues are on the ballot. So no matter where you fall on party lines, get to the ballot box. We also need volunteers for poll workers for the 2024 elections. We have big goals. We want to make sure that we show up for Orange County. So there is a special need, particularly if you are a Spanish speaker. Is Mary in the room, Mary Montanis? Yes, Mary, could you wave? Please see Mary if you are interested in being a poll worker. We also need help providing meals for our amazing LWVOC poll workers on Tuesday, March 19th. We will be delivering breakfast, lunch, dinner. If you have ever been a poll worker, you know it is a very long day, and those meals are so helpful. So please visit lwvoc.org, our volunteer page, to sign up to help us deliver those meals to our precincts. If we can put the slide up for some feedback. I love our Hot Topics discussions, but we also want your feedback. We want to know how we can make them better, what discussion topics you think would be helpful for our community, how do we continue to educate our community and inform democracy and move democracy forward. So please scan the QR code, give us your insight. We'd love to hear it.
Thank you, of course, to the wonderful Cuisinairs and the Winter Park Event Center. Thank you to Desmond Reed and Dare Books in Longwood, one of 3 remaining Black bookstores in the state of Florida. Please go see him, support Black business, and support books, reading, and education. It's so imperative that we do. A special thank you to the DEIA committee. And I would like our DEIA members to please stand. A special thank you to Saudi Ellis, Virginia Meany, and Marilyn Baldwin, who were central in creating today's program. And from me to the 3 of you, thank you for hearing me and digging deeper on this topic and making today's program exceptional. I really appreciate it. We really appreciate it. It was so meaningful. As Lee mentioned earlier, we have an extended discussion immediately following next door at the Winter Park Library, Edith Bush Theater, first floor, beginning at as soon as this is over. Until 2 p.m., moderated by Valada Flewellyn. While in the library, you can see Valada's exhibit currently on display there. It is beautiful. Our March Hot Topics will be a legislative recap, so please be in the room. Running in place is our theme. Florida lawmaking takes a backseat to politics. League of Women Voters will also be hosting a shoreline cleanup at Lake Sibylla on February 25th. Go to lwvoc.org to our volunteer page to sign up and get more information. And for our league members, and particularly our young professionals, we would love to see you at our league speakeasy, and as Pat likes to say, it's Orlando's most conscientious cocktail hour. It is being hosted on February 25th at 6:30 at Delaney Tavern. Come out, bring a friend, reach out to a young professional group or a young professional within your circle to invite them. We really want to make sure that we show up, fill this space with great people and amazing conversation. The Spring League Showcase and the new member welcome will happen on March 12th. So to all our new league members and our existing league members, I hope to see you there. It's at 6 p.m. at the Winter Park Community Center. The Racial Justice Book Club, someone asked me about that earlier, will hold its Zoom meeting on March 13th at 7 p.m. via Zoom. The sign-up sheet are at the band book table to my right, your left. And if you are not a member of the league, I humbly ask you to join us for great conversations, for moving our community forward, for digging deeper in our community and creating unity on all fronts. To everyone, please donate to the league, volunteer with the league, and bring a friend to league events. I'd now like to welcome back Dr. Trawick to lead We Shall Overcome. Thank you all.
Thank you. Well, this is a time when we can all participate. I am going to give you the first line of what we're going to sing, and together we want to hear your voices. I heard you during Lift Every Voice and Sing. So we shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome someday. We are not afraid. We are not afraid. We are not afraid. We are not afraid today. Oh, deep in my heart, afraid today. And the truth will make us free. The truth will make us free. The truth will make us free. The truth will make us free today. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe the truth will make us free this day, today. And then finally, we'll walk hand in hand. We'll walk hand in hand. We'll walk hand in hand. We'll walk hand in hand today. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe that we'll walk hand in hand today. Amen.
Thank you so much, Dr. Trawick. And with that, we are adjourned. Thank you so much.